Pam, if you would be so kind, I would like you to share this video that I've made and with Lance. I would really appreciate it. Lance, Joe Wright here. As I recall, when we were at St. Louis Second Ward, you were 2 years older with me, and you were a huge influence on me. We only spoke once that I can recall, and I'll share that with you in just a moment. The thing I want to tell you, and I got my notes off to the side here, so if I'm looking a little odd, it's because I just want to make sure that I cover everything. I had two wonderful, gentle, loving parents that were very supportive, but they were both divorced, and we had a blended family. And I had two older stepbrothers that were in trouble all the time, and really were not happy about the blended marriage, and they took much of the resentment out of me. And my two biggest tormentors that I've ever had in my life lived in my house. And it was living hell. And one of them flunked twice and ended up being the same grade as I was. So it was even worse. When I go to school, it wasn't even any relief. In one instance, two instances, we were actually in the same class together, which made it even worse. Around ninth grade or so, the missionaries started coming around the house. Just so you understand, my father was a member of the church, and ironically, my two older stepbrothers were also members of the Mormon church. And my mother wasn't, my sister wasn't, and I wasn't either. So the missionaries looked at it as a part member family opportunity to see if I would be interested in coming to church. And they invited me to come, and to be honest with you, being 9 years old, or ninth grade, excuse me, wasn't really that spiritual. It was kind of, didn't really buy the story of the gold plates at the time. I was really suspicious of that. He goes, I wanted to see the gold plates, and the angel took them back. So it was, yeah, really. But they invited me to come to church, and I did attend church a number of times. I was thrown in the youth group, and it was really awkward because much of the youth had been together for years, if not for their entire life. And they were good friends, and all of a sudden I'm thrown in that mix, and everybody's like, what are you doing here? Who are you? It was not a pleasant experience. I stopped attending church, and I even told one of my friends, I'm not ever going back. I just don't like that place. The missionaries invited me, and I believe it was Hans invited me to come back just one more time, and my dad was encouraging me to. And it was a fast and testimony meeting. And what a terrible time to come back for a church. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is just a horrible meeting. However, and this is the time that they walked around with the microphones and the cable, you stood up and you started to bear your testimony of how much that you love your family. And then you looked at your brother, little brother Robin, who was sitting on your left side, and you put your arm around him, and you were in tears, and you looked at him in the eyes and you said that you just love him. And I want you to know that was just an explosion in my head. I had no idea that a sibling could be anything other than a person from hell. And I could not just believe that. It was like something that just blew my mind. But almost in that instant, I knew that that's what I wanted someday, to have a family like that. And I looked at it around it as I got to know other members of the ward, and those beautiful, loving families that were strong and supportive of each other. Now, that was 51 years ago that you bore your testimony in sacrament meeting, and this was 1972. And that is seared in my mind so clearly. I can even tell you where you and your family were sitting. You guys were sitting on the second to the last bench row, the wood benches, in the middle, and your little brother Robin was sitting on the left side of you. I was sitting in the folding chairs on the first row behind you, directly behind you. That's how powerful it is of me. And I want you to know, because of that, and my thirst to have what I saw that day with you and your brother, I wanted to have a great family. I ended up marrying a wonderful, wonderful woman. We have 4 beautiful daughters. They all married great people, have beautiful families. We have 6 grandchildren, son-in-laws. I just absolutely love one of them that's nearby. We do a lot of things together. We're hiking and getting together. And I always tell him, you are the loving brother that I never had. You're not just a son-in-law. You are the loving brother that I never had. I just want to thank you. I've shared this story of that experience being fast and testimony meeting and seeing what you did. I've shared that story hundreds of times, maybe might have even gone into the thousands of times. That's just what a dramatic experience was for me. And I thought it was time that I shared that with you. And just to let you know, it's interesting how that one simple act of kindness changed the whole future of the world, just not for me, but for generations. And I want to thank you. Sorry. I just want to share 2 more very, very brief stories. One, after I joined the church, I heard about patriarchal blessings. And I went into Bishop Lewis to get a recommend. And I came out and I went into the cultural hall, and you were standing there watching a basketball game, and I stood next to you, which was kind of inappropriate because I was 2 years younger than you, and that's like a world away in terms of coolness. And you looked at me, and this is the only time that I think that you and I ever talked. You said, "What are you holding in your hand?" And I told you what it was, a recommend for a patriarchal blessing. And you said, "Wow, that is really cool." And that just really always stuck with me too. And just one more brief story. Soon after all this, I went to my first youth conference, and this was in 1973, and that was at Southern Illinois University at Carbondale. And you and I were on the same floor. You were just a few dorms down from me. And you snuck in this huge stereo system with big speakers and a turntable. And as soon as you got that set up in there, you played over and over Steely Dan, Reeling in the Years. And that it was not just the full song, it was just only the chorus line, Reeling in the Years. And then you would pick up the needle and move it again. And you played it over and over and over again. And that's just always stuck with me. I just want you to know on my Apple playlist, I have Steely Dan. I've added it last year. And every time that song, Reeling in the Years, come in, I think of you. Love you, bro. Have a great day. Joe.